In a small town surrounded by hills, there lived an old potter named Kenji. Every day, he sat outside his little workshop shaping clay into beautiful pots, bowls, and vases. People from all around the region came to buy his work, for they said, "Kenji's pots are not just clay, they carry a soul." But Kenji was growing old, and his hands had begun to tremble. He decided to pass on his knowledge to a young apprentice. After much searching, he chose a boy named Hiroshi. Hiroshi was poor but full of questions, and most importantly, he carried a spark of determination in his eyes. On his first day, Hiroshi was excited to touch the wheel and make his first pot. But Kenji only gave him a block of clay and said, "Before you can shape clay, you must learn to respect it." For weeks, Hiroshi's only task was to knead the clay, to soften it, to feel its weight and texture. He grew impatient. "Master, when will I make something beautiful?" Kenji smiled and replied, "Clay will fight you unless you first listen to it." Months passed before Kenji finally let Hiroshi sit at the wheel. The boy's hands shook, the clay collapsed again and again. Sometimes it hardened too quickly, sometimes it cracked. Frustrated, Hiroshi shouted, "Maybe I'm not meant to be a potter." The old man placed his hand on Hiroshi's shoulder and whispered, "Every failure is part of your first masterpiece. Keep shaping." So Hiroshi kept trying. He ruined hundreds of lumps of clay. His friends laughed at him, saying he would never succeed. But he continued, day after day, turning mistakes into lessons. Slowly, his pots began to hold their shape. His hands began to flow with the clay instead of against it. 1 year later, the town held its annual festival. Potters from all across the land brought their finest creations, pots painted with gold, vases encrusted with jewels, dishes polished to perfection. Hiroshi looked at his simple clay pot and felt ashamed. But Kenji encouraged him to place it on the table. Let the clay speak for itself. During the festival, people admired the dazzling works of the other potters. But when they reached Hiroshi's pot, something strange happened. They stopped, touched it, and lingered. The pot was simple, unpolished, but it carried warmth. Every curve bore the marks of persistence. Every line whispered of struggle and patience. At the end of the day, the judges awarded Hiroshi the prize for the soul of craft. Tears filled his eyes. He asked Kenji, "Why did they choose my pot? It's so plain compared to the others." The old potter smiled and said, "Because beauty isn't in perfection. It's in the courage to continue shaping when everything falls apart. Clay only finds its soul when you refuse to give up." From that day forward, Hiroshi became known not for making the fanciest pots, but for creating ones that felt alive. Each piece he made carried a story of struggle, patience, and perseverance. And whenever someone asked him how he learned, he would answer, "I didn't learn from clay, I learned from failing and trying again." Glowing star moral of the story: true mastery doesn't come from talent alone, but from the courage to face failure again and again until persistence shapes success.